All right. Rude. I was just about to do our entrance and you coughed.
Well, please do.
Can you please, stop coughing there?
At least for the
It's very inappropriate. It's very ill-timed, you're coughing.
I know.
Go ahead, cough it up. Did you get it out? Feel better?
For the next 5 minutes or so, yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try and teach you things in an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host, who is the man of the hour, my husband, Ron. This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on his interpretation of relevant law, and any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individual making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Indeed I am, since 1999.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, my love. How was your week?
Filled with coughing, unfortunately.
Did you say coughing or caffeine?
Both, actually, if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, mine too, to be quite honest. Oh, man.
I love my coffee.
I know you do. I think your egg broke, though.
I know.
I feel so bad. Hello to our live chat here on Twitch. Hello, Bean Man. Welcome to the stream.
Hi, everyone.
This is a live cast, but we will post it up on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube so that y'all can listen to it later. So what we're going to chat about today is the 1776 Commission report and all of the executive orders that Biden has signed his first week in office, because there's been a lot happening.
Hopefully we'll talk about the filibuster at the end.
Can you talk a little bit louder, babe?
Yeah, hopefully we'll talk about the filibuster at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to learn to project, and articulate. For a lawyer, you don't really talk very loud.
I only project when I vomit.
Okay, that was unnecessary. We're moving on. So, 1776 Commission report. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's actually irrelevant. Biden first day, it was one of the things that he reversed.
Yep.
So, and the committee that Trump created has been disbanded. So, it's actually irrelevant at this point. But the reason why we're bringing it up is because of the fact that 18 people were on this committee, and they essentially believed in whitewashing history.
Correct.
So the 1776 Commission report came out from this 18-person advisory committee, which was, it was released on MLK Day, which obviously was a statement.
That was designed.
That you can't tell me that wasn't a statement, because what they were trying to do is they were trying to
in essence, glorify slavery.
Yes, they're trying to glorify slavery. They were trying to... It was in response to the 1619 Project by the New York Times, which has had historians kind of question some of the historical facts that they have on the 1619 Project. But the 1619 Project, 1619 was the first African slave ship
to the colony of
Virginia. But it wasn't the first slave. It wasn't the first slaves that were brought to America. So there's actually a lot of controversy that surrounds this. But the concept of the 1619 report, or of the concept of the 1619 project, from my understanding, is purely educational, and to educate from the Black perspective, educate from what Black people have endured over the last, 150, 200 years.
Plus what they've contributed.
Plus what they have contributed to our society, because they have, like, a lot of the inventions and things that we use to this day were invented by Black Americans.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a project to uplift those Black voices and to and to give more history on slavery, because schools don't actually really teach that history. They kind of gloss over it. And the 1776 Commission report, one of the things that were stated is, among other things, the document identifies progressivism and racism and identity politics as challenges to America's principles and likens them to communism, slavery, and fascism. So what they're trying to say is
America's principles are racism.
Yeah.
That's, if racism is a challenge to America's principles, what principle is it challenging? White supremacy. You understand what I'm saying?
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay. If racism wasn't a challenge to America's principles,
okay,
then what would it be challenging? Equality? No.
Right. Okay.
Progressivism? No. Democracy? No.
So in their own statement, they essentially stated that white supremacy is a problem in America.
Well, no. What they stated was white supremacy is an American principle.
Okay.
They came nowhere close to saying it was a problem.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I misunderstood that. So basically, what they said was white supremacy is a principle of America, and that being progressive, being liberal, and being anti-racist and a feminist, wanting equality for all, challenges that,
right.
Which it does. Actually, it does.
And then they try and say it's like communism and fascism, which are polar opposites in the political spectrum, but it's like both. But they don't know what they're talking about yet again.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, once you get so far to the extremes, they start to be just like each other in circle. So I mean,
eventually.
But so it began as an executive order, and so it was revoked as an executive order and disbanded and completely removed because Biden said, no, this is dumb. So
yeah, they didn't even have any historians in that 18 person.
Yeah, no, they had lawyers.
Oh, good God.
They had
you know there's a fatal flaw.
They had they had teachers, but it was like teachers of like political science and stuff like that. It wasn't it wasn't actually
historians.
It was anyway.
I think with that we can go on to just
so yeah, with that we're going to move on to Biden's first week of executive orders. And there have been a lot.
There have been a lot. Now, the thing with executive orders, as you can see from the 1776 report, is that executive orders are easily getting rid of by the next president.
Right. Executive orders, while they are great, and I agree, I personally agree with several of the executive orders that have been signed into place, Congress could just as easily stop them as well.
Yeah, if he had a hostile Congress, they could just stop any executive order
Yeah.
by passing a law.
So executive orders take this well, yes, it is sort of a win. It is a win. It's not a full win because what we want out of these executive orders is actually law. Don't worry about chat.
Okay. I thought someone was asking a question.
No, don't worry about chat. I can focus on chat and talk at the same time. You can't. You focus on the topic at hand.
Okay.
I've been doing this for 4 years. You haven't. 5. Oh my God, I'm about to hit my 5-year stream anniversary. Holy crap. Yes, actually, Jayhawk in live stream makes a yes. I like very concise. Executive orders equal quick response action. Legislative actions equals more lasting changes. And that's where we actually want these wins. We want these wins in legislative actions, not executive orders, because executive orders may not last.
Right. For example, number 1.
Yeah, on day 1, he passed a memorandum freezing approval of rules passed in final days of President Trump presidency. So all new and pending rules passed in the last days of Trump's tenure,
which were done by executive order,
are being reviewed and possibly overturned. A lot of them, actually, I believe, a third of them have been overturned so far.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to get an executive order, but as easy as it is to get an executive order, it's just as easy to lose it. So, yes, Rev will be happy if he passed something that you agreed with, but take that next step now and write your congressman or woman, write your congressperson, call your congresspeople and tell them that you want this to become legislative. You want this to become a law. You don't want this to be the exception. You want it to be the rule.
Right.
So day 1, let's see.
As far as that goes, your elected representatives take phone calls and telegrams much more seriously than an email.
Did you just say a telegram?
I did.
Do you mean like a letter? Like a written letter?
A written letter works too, but a number of people back in the day used to telegram with Western Union.
I know that some of them, depending on how local they will actually take you. You can make an appointment with your representatives and actually go in and have a conversation.
For most of them, yes. Some of them don't.
Some of them don't. A lot of them do, though. So, make that effort to actually get. I am using my hands a lot because I'm trying to emphasize this, but if you're listening to this, you can't see my craziness, which is why I like doing podcasts, because you can't see me being a fool, but the people in the live stream can. So anyway, day 2, or day 1, so we had the executive order rejoining the Paris Agreement on the climate change, which, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Although I want to take Ted Cruz really doesn't understand politics sometimes. Did you see his tweet?
I did. And, according to Ted Cruz, President Biden is more concerned with voters in Paris than voters in Pittsburgh. But AOC had the perfect response to him.
Yeah. Anyway, for those of you who don't understand, the Paris Climate Accords is called the Paris Climate Accord because that's where it was signed. Just like any treaty that's ever been signed in the history of the world, They call it, usually where they sign it, the Geneva Convention.
The Treaty of Versailles.
The Treaty of Versailles. That stuff gets signed in a location. That's what they call it. It has nothing to do directly with overall, yeah, it does have something to do with the people there, but it has something to do with people worldwide. That's why they're called treaties. So, yes, that's all I had to say about that.
And according to the Constitution, treaties are the supreme law of the land.
Yes, which we will actually circle back to that. We'll actually circle back to that concept. We will circle back. Executive order to promote racial equity. Biden ordered his government to conduct equity assessments of its agencies and reallocate resources to advance equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. So essentially, he wants to promote equality.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
That's all that executive order is. It's just to emphasize that. The proclamation by the way, we are reading off of the most recent article because he signed like 3 today, right before the podcast. So we are reading off of the NBCnews.com. They literally just have a list of all of the orders that he signed. Proclamation ending the ban on U.S. entry for majority Muslim countries. Executive order, I think that's pretty standard. Executive order requiring mask wearing on federal property.
Yeah.
Executive order coordinating government-wide COVID-19 response. Executive order revising immigration enforcement policies. You can stop me anytime. I'm just going through this list if you wanted to talk about anything specific.
Well, this one, there was a judge in Texas that kind of put a temporary restraining order on this particular executive order.
On this one? This is the one?
Yeah.
Are you sure this is the one that the judge did the restraining order on? The moratorium. He did the restraining order on the 100 deportation moratorium. I don't think that's the same thing.
Well, that is immigration enforcement policies. It rolls into that 100-day moratorium.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So any executive order can be challenged by any state or entity that has an interest in the particular outcome of the order. So the Texas, I believe, Attorney General filed an application for temporary restraining orders so as to not implement the 100-day deportation moratorium, which means they can go ahead and, for the duration of the temporary restraining order, still deport people.
Because they still have people in cages on the Texas border.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess they wanted to be able to deport those people.
Right. And now a temporary restraining order does not last forever. There has to have a hearing, but it will last generally at least 90 days. And the bar to get a temporary restraining order is not high. Most people who apply for a temporary restraining order get their temporary restraining order.
Jay Hawk in chat says the Manhattan Project. That must be in response to...
When I think of the Manhattan Project, I think of the World War II effort to build the atomic bomb.
Yeah, so do I. That was a joke about the tree. Oh, the tree. Oh, sorry. I thought you were being serious. My bad. So where were we? Oh, executive order for undoing regulatory restrictions on federal agencies. Let me see if this is easier. There we go. Executive order undoing regulatory restrictions on federal agencies.
Yeah. The restrictions that they had on certain regulatory agencies was ridiculous. And the old order from Trump was if you wanted to pass a new regulation, you had to get rid of 2 previous ones.
Yeah.
Which
that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I don't understand.
Now, is there a lot of unnecessary regulation? Yeah, because that's what legislatures do. They feel the need to actually pass laws. 17,000 plus usually every year.
I'm listening, but I'm really distracted because my hair looks like greaser hair. Like I feel like I should be in grease right now because that's what it looks like.
You need to go get a pink sweater.
I need one of those combs so I can comb it. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Let's get back to the podcast. So executive order incorporating undocumented immigrants into the census, which it's illegal. Well, I'll let you, because you're the lawyer. It's illegal to ask people. Isn't it illegal to ask them if they live here? Or not live here?
No.
But,
that's what the census does. It counts the people that live here.
Right, but
what the court said was because of the time factor, you cannot ask their immigration or citizenship status. That's not the purpose of the census.
Right. The purpose of the census is to get an idea of how many people are here.
Right.
It's not to get an idea of how many people we can deport.
Right. Because if you don't count everybody that's here, for example, there's 100 citizens and 50 immigrants, right? 150 people need to go to school, but if you only count 100 people, you're only getting federal funds for 100 people.
Right.
And then when the school gets those funds, they have to split it up between 150 people.
Right.
So everyone suffers.
That's why that's why a lot of immigrants don't do the census because they're afraid of being deported.
Right. And the census is constitutionally mandated. It does not say anywhere that you only count citizens.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. It also has to do with voting and districting and redistricting, which I have my own opinions on that, but we're not here to talk about that. I think district lines need to just go, but I digress. Executive order refocusing on the climate crisis and canceling the Keystone permits. Okay, back to those treaties that we were talking about.
Yeah, well, even though the Constitution says that the Constitution and treaties are the supreme law of the land, the indigenous people of this country will tell you treaties don't mean shit.
I'm gonna have to go back and bleep that out.
Was that against terms of service?
If you want to be considered clean for iTunes and everyone listen worldwide, yes, you can't curse. Why do you think I have? Why do you think that I've stuttered so much?
Oh, okay.
Because I can't say the F word.
Yeah. Okay.
So yes, building this pipeline, and there are other pipelines for the record that are trying to be built. We were listening to NPR yesterday, and they were talking about
Yeah, there's at least 4 or 5.
4 or 5, and the CO2 emissions and the methane emissions, and how they burn it off, and how it's not regulated, and how it's a whole thing that is really, really not good for the environment. And all of this is done on indigenous lands. All of these pipelines are being taken through indigenous lands. And
that is the problem. They're going through sacred indigenous land. Well, they could have easily bypassed them. It would have cost them a few $1 million more. But they decided, they're just indigenous people. We're going to go through.
Right. And we have signed these treaties that say that you can't do that, yet we're breaking these treaties. So, and I say we because
it's done in our name.
It is done in our name. So that's a problem. That is okay. We have a question. Did the Paris Accord get approved by Congress? Treaties that are the law of the land are entered into by the president, but need congressional approval. I think that's why Trump was able to leave the Paris Accord. It didn't go through Congress.
That totally makes sense.
I think.
Although
I don't think it's been approved, but I think they're going to settle that this week.
He also left part of the United Nations.
Yeah.
Which I know we chartered the UN. We're one of the founding members. I'm sure that was approved by Congress, though I haven't researched that.
No, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Yes, he also left WHO, but we are now starting. That's an executive order that we actually will get to as well. But that was we actually are now rejoining. We've already started rejoining WHO. I do. So the next executive order, banning discrimination on basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. So this will
federal.
Yes, federal. This isn't state. So this isn't state mandated. So your states can still do this. So while this is a win, there's still a lot to do.
Yeah.
Because the one thing, so one of the big things that I think a lot of people, generally speaking, federal does trump state, but
supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution.
Right. However, states can and will challenge it, and until it gets to the Supreme Court.
Well, first of all, this is just an executive order.
Explain how that would.
It changes policy. You can only change policy for federal agencies. So this particular expansion doesn't apply to the private workplace.
Oh, okay.
You're going to need laws for that.
Okay. But this will definitely does this at least lay the groundwork to expand it and make the laws and expand the laws?
Yeah, but Congress has to take up that mantle.
Okay. Memorandum revamping regulatory review. This goes into the Office of Budget and Management to oversee an effort to modernize and improve the regulatory review process. Had something actually specifically for that. That is actually a reversal. Let me get back. Okay. So the office, they have been charged by presidents of both parties with reviewing significant executive branch regulatory actions. And this is from whitehouse.gov. I'm directly reading this description from whitehouse.gov. Where was I? This process is largely governed by executive order, yada, yada, yada. This memorandum reaffirms the basic principles set forth in that order and in executive order, yada, 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 on January 18th, 2011, which took important steps towards modernizing the regulatory review process. When carried out properly, that process can help to advance regulatory policies that improve the lives of American people.
Well,
So basically, this is the budgetary. This deals with the budget and how we manage our money.
right, and it should be modernized.
Yes.
It should never get to a point where it needs to be modernized, my opinion.
But the fact that he had to reverse Trump's, that is a reversal because Trump put us backwards in that particular thing, which incidentally now has us in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt because of how Trump ran the country.
Well, there were some particular tax cuts that went to the very wealthy that cost, I believe, a couple trillion over the next 10 years.
Jake Hawk mentions the Interstate Commerce Clause.
Yes. Well,
What is that?
the Interstate Commerce Clause is a section of the Constitution which gives Congress the power to regulate all interstate commerce.
Okay.
And basically, that means, and this is what they used it in the 60s, you eventually could not have separate dining facilities for white patrons and black patrons because they invoked the Interstate Commerce Clause and made them integrate, even though there was a lot of resistance to it. That's just a nutshell thing. But Congress could theoretically regulate a lemonade stand outside your house if it's on, a highway.
So that's how. Interstate. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm having a brain explosion. I get it now. Okay, so that's how federal can. Okay,
Get into.
So if you're like on I-40 and you're in Kansas and you have a separate.
Right.
Okay.
And
they can go, wait, this is federal property. You have to do this.
They can regulate Amazon through the same way.
Oh.
Because the internet is interstate.
Oh, that is. Wow. Interesting. Huh.
My nephew right now is having problems with a particular city in California that does not want Airbnbs in their city. So they are zoning them out.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I told him to ask his attorney, because, this is not my specialty, was they are effectively usurping Congress and the Interstate Commerce Clause because Airbnb is interstate commerce and they're zoning it out.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you brought up the Interstate Commerce Clause? Wow, that's so interesting. Yes, Jayhawk. So our live audience says so LGBT protections via the clause is a real possibility.
Yes, they used it during the civil rights actions of the 60s. They could do it again for the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
But they have to be willing to do it.
Yeah. That's the only problem with that.
Yeah. My opinion, after 50 years of watching them, the Democrats do not know how to wield their power.
I would agree with you on that.
The Republican Party does and is not afraid to use it.
There's stunned silence because I don't have any response to that because he's right. He's right. You're right.
They need to step up to the plate and actually swing at some balls.
Preferably Trump's.
I thought we were keeping it clean.
I can take that out.
Okay.
Fix it in post. Okay. All right. So, okay. Executive order mandating ethics pledge for government appointees. So on the heels of Trump's midnight bid to reverse ethics commitments for executive branch employees, Biden signed an order requiring all government appointees to sign an ethics pledge prohibiting the acceptance of gifts from registered lobbyists and lobbying for at least 2 years after exiting the government.
Yeah, I think 2 years is too short of a time personally, but it's better than nothing. And accepting gifts from lobbyists is just being bribed. My opinion.
Yeah. Hey, I'll give you this yacht if you push this process in for me, but I'll give it to you in 2 years after you leave office.
You want some Super Bowl? Want to watch Super Bowl from my luxury box?
Yeah. That stuff's so messed up.
Yeah, and it goes on all the time. Both parties.
Like, yeah. Okay. I mean, I won't say no to somebody taking me to the 33 Club in Disney, though. I can't.
Well, if you were part of the administration, you're going to jail.
I'm just kidding. Thank God I'm not part of the administration. I'm just saying, if you could get me into the 33 Club in Disneyland, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Pulled funds from the border wall.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. So, basically, he shut down the wall.
Which, if you think about it, Congress never authorized those funds, really.
Right.
He had to divert it from the military by his own executive order.
Yeah, because Congress actually, that was one thing that I was surprised that Congress would not approve.
Well, a $25 billion wall can be defeated by a $25 ladder. One of my favorite videos I've seen is they're building the wall and you see this guy scaling it.
Yeah. Executive order pausing federal student loan payments. All that does is it pauses the
It's basically a deferment.
Yeah. It's a deferment, but without the repercussions of a deferment.
Right.
Which is great.
They're going to have to come up with a better solution at some point.
I hope that that's laying the ground to kind of overhaul that system. Because it's really frustrating as someone who is very in debt because of her school education, due to just really bad decisions and not knowing anything when I was younger and having to make decisions at the age of 18 and not understanding how things work.
Well,
it's a lot. That's a lot to put on someone who doesn't know anything.
Put it this way. Everybody that's going to college is basically given a mortgage. Now, if they applied for a mortgage outside of college, they wouldn't qualify.
Right.
But they're more than willing to give these young adults, I'm not going to call them kids, Because they are generally 18. I was 17, but generally 18.
Well, not everybody's a freaking genius like you are.
So, yeah, they're mortgaging their future. They don't know if they're going to be able to get jobs after this. And the reason they do it is because it's guaranteed money from the federal government. If you default. That's what a guaranteed student loan is.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the government guarantees them, they jack up the tuition, they jack up the loan amount.
Yeah. And there's no limits on to how, like, we were having a discussion with some of Ron's friends. They went to school out here in California. They paid what, a couple of grand a semester?
I paid at UC Irvine $1,500 a year.
Yeah. My school was $10,000 a semester.
Now, if you take into consideration some inflation,
that's still a lot.
$1,500 a year in 1980s money is probably $5,000 now.
Yeah. And I was paying $20,000 a year to go to school. Actually, I wasn't. My student loans were. And I now owe over $100,000 in student loans because I can't afford to pay them back. And they want us to make a house payment on it because they don't want to work with me on it. That's a whole other nutshell. But
well, a lot of people with student loans are in that boat.
Yeah, I'm not. This is not just me. And it's not. And for me, it's not a fact of I don't want to pay my loans back. I do, because I got an education that I value. Even if I'm not making money, well, I make money. I'm not making a lot of money, and I'm not making enough to properly pay them back. I still value the education I learned. I value the teachers that I had. They deserve to be paid, and I want to pay that back, what I borrowed, but I shouldn't be punished because the system is so messed up. So Ooft is in Europe, and our live studio audience asked, yes, do you guys have to earn a certain amount a year in a job to start paying back college loans? The answer to that is no. You have to start paying them back within 6 months after graduating college.
Although there is a program you pay back according to your income, but you still have to start paying them back. There is
okay, I would say yes. However, if you have a company, so the problem is so my student loans have been sold to several different agencies throughout the years. And they have conveniently every year lost my tax returns so that I couldn't get the income-based repayment plans. So that's when I just kind of gave up trying to pay my student loans back and decided I'll just have really crappy credit for the rest of my life. Because they don't want to work with you.
No,
they don't care. They don't care. So it's actually, this hopefully is laying the groundwork to change how that system is supposed to play out.
And you can't bankrupt student loans away.
Yeah, you can't bankrupt. They are the only loans you can't bankrupt away.
Generally, yeah.
Okay, so you are actually, his specialization is bankruptcy. Why? What is the reason why you cannot bankrupt your student loans?
Because a Republican Congress reformed the bankruptcy laws 2005 under Bush, and specifically said you can't bankrupt student loans away.
So that's actually recent.
15 years.
So you can...
Before that, you could bankrupt them away if you could show that paying them back was a financial hardship.
Which it is in my case.
Which it's going to be for a ton of people.
Wow. So, according to UFT, over where she is at, you have to earn $25K a year before they start taking money off of you for your student loans.
That's probably the equivalent for the income-based
Yeah.
here, because 20,000 or so is considered poverty level.
Yes.
In the US. So if you are above the poverty level, I'm sure that they would make you pay back something, even if it's $5 or $10 a month. They make you pay back something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 25,000 a year is not a whole lot of money. That's the equivalent of $12.50 an hour.
Fun fact, as a department manager in a major company, we won't say who it was. I actually liked working for that particular company. When I was laid off, I had a really, really just not a good store manager. But as a whole, the company is actually not a bad company. But anyway, it was a major department store, and I was a manager in that company, and I was making $12 an hour in a management position. And I was young and stupid and didn't realize that I should have asked for more. But yeah, as a manager, I was making $20,000 a year. If I wasn't living at home, I would not have been able to afford to live.
Anyhow, with that being said,
I mean, this...
Back to the law.
Well, this is why for people who argue that we don't need minimum wage is fine. This is why I argue for a higher minimum wage.
Here is my opinion in a nutshell. Minimum wage should be enough that if you work 40 hours a week, it doesn't matter how many jobs, but if you work 40 hours a week, you don't qualify for any kind of assistance because you make enough money to live on your own and pay your own bills. If you work 40 hours a week and you still have to qualify for government assistance, basically what our taxes are going for is to give welfare to the business who is not paying their workers a livable wage. That is corporate welfare.
Yeah.
It's not the workers' fault that they need assistance.
Right.
It is, and I'm going to say, the double arches.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply and get a job, they tell you how to get government assistance.
Yeah.
Because it's part of their business plan.
It's part of their business plan to teach you how to get welfare assistance because they don't want to pay they don't want to pay a higher wage.
Minimum wage should be enough to where you don't need it.
That's why it's called a minimum wage. It is the minimum to live off of. And that's what FDR called it.
I defy any congressman to live on $7.25 an hour.
That's what I was making in high school at the age of 15. And it went up to $7.25 while I was in high school. It started at $7.15 and minimum wage went up to $7.25 and has not gone up since I was 15 years old. I am 35. In 10 years, it has not gone up.
How much do you think congressman wages have gone up in those 10 years?
Exactly. That is.
And I wouldn't mind pegging congressional raises to the minimum wage.
You should not be able to become a billionaire by being a politician.
Right. But a lot of them become multimillionaires.
Well, yeah, because they're. So he also signed a memorandum reinstating our dogs are really loud. We're sorry.
He reinstated our dogs really loud?
Shut up. Reinstating deferred enforcement departure for Liberians. So
I honestly do not know about that.
I think he reinstated the deferment of their enforced departure granted by the Bush. Here, I'll click on it. If you want to skim through it.
Was there a civil war in Liberia?
I think so. I think basically what he did was he opened the borders back up to Liberia.
Because, refugees usually come from war areas.
Yeah.
You don't want to deport refugees back to a war area.
Right.
They'll end up getting killed.
A lot of his first day stuff was him repealing. He was doing a lot of COVID stuff and repealing a lot of the racially based border closings, essentially. We bombed the Liberian dictator. Oh, okay. Interesting.
And we're always bombing somebody.
Yeah. Anyway. Where are we at? Okay. Memorandum strengthening Daca. So I don't fully understand Daca. All I know is it's just to help children. It mostly is to help kids who are what do they call them? Anchor babies?
Well,
where they're born in America.
Technically, an anchor baby is a baby that is born in America, therefore has outright citizenship.
Right.
Can't be deported, so their parents get to stay here.
Right.
That's why it's an anchor baby.
Yes.
DACA is different. They're referred to as dreamers. And these are kids and minors whose parents brought them with them.
Oh, so they weren't born here.
They weren't born here.
But I think kids who were born here fall under that too sometimes, right?
They're outright American citizens.
Oh, okay.
Now,
DACA is for kids that arrive.
Right.
Okay. And I say anchor babies. I feel like that's a really, really bad negative term. I don't say it to be offensive. I say it to understand what it is more. And so my apologies for using that term. That was really not a good. That was not a good choice on my end.
A lot of kids that fall under DACA came here when they were 2, 3. They've been here their whole lives.
So this is essentially their country, yeah.
Right. So you're going to send them back to Mexico or Haiti?
Okay, so that's what that is.
Have you never been there?
Okay. Not that. All right. I understand that a bit more now. Yeah, because if you're not really going to remember anything at 1 and 2 years old. You're an American by all intents and purposes. And why would you send someone of, 18, 19 years of age back to a country that they don't even know? They don't know people there. They don't, how can you do that? You're essentially just taking them and throwing them out in the wild.
Yeah.
That's just horrible.
And not very biblical, but we won't get into that.
No, this is not a theology podcast. So that's just day 1, y'all. That's just day 1, and we're at an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we going to continue on?
Yeah, because if we don't finish this, we're going to back ourselves up for next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so day 2, executive order promoting COVID-19 safety in domestic and international travel. Executive order expanding access to COVID-19 treatments. Memorandum supporting states' use of National Guard in COVID-19 response.
Which hopefully will help get vaccines distributed.
Because that's what the National Guard is for, is to help in those kind of crisis
I would take
situations.
Bezos up on his offer and use Amazon too. They got the best logistics in the U.S.
Yeah. I saw a meme. I saw a meme that said, train Amazon delivery drivers to get the vaccine, and you'll get your vaccine in 1 to 2 days if you have Amazon Prime.
Right. I mean, it's pathetic that
I should laugh at that.
we can't get more people vaccinated.
Yeah, well, in listening to NPR this morning, a lot of that is because of the fact that there's a bottleneck somewhere because there was no leadership and
there was no plan.
There was no plan. So what the administration now is having to do is back up to find where we're being bottlenecked so that we can release more. Executive order strengthening public health supply chain. That's just a lot of these are basically creating plans for COVID-19. Executive order establishing COVID-19 health equity task force. So this is to make sure that people in lower income neighborhoods also get access to it. Executive order supporting the reopening and continuing operation of schools.
Right, that's going to be a guidance thing from the Department of Education.
Yeah.
They don't have the power to tell you to open the school.
Right.
Or close it.
It is. And schools need to be open. It's stressing the kids out. It's stressing the teachers out.
It's not a good way to learn.
No, not every kid can learn this way. It really, they really need to do something, but it needs to be done well. It needs to be done safely. Some kids are thriving, but most kids are not because they need that, that
right. We have
interaction.
We have friends with a special needs child.
Yeah.
And, she's adorable, but
she's struggling.
She is struggling right now.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand what's going on and why she can't see her friends.
Yeah. She's having a really hard time. Mom and dad are having a hard time. It's not, it's a rough situation. Executive order promoting workplace safety amid the pandemic. Again, this actually, I believe Department of Labor and OSHA to create guidelines. Executive order establishing a COVID-19 pandemic testing board. The fact that we didn't have that is mind-boggling to me. So day 2 was clearly mostly COVID stuff.
Yep.
Day 3, executive order expanding food assistance programs. So this order extends the 15% increase in supplemental nutrition in the SNAP program and food stamps because of the amount of people that are out of work or who can't work and are making no money. He extended the food assistance programs. Executive order assisting veterans with debt. Oh, that's a new one. I didn't see that one. He asked the Department of Veteran Affairs with considering a freeze on federal debt and overpayment collection from about 2 million veterans. Man, why can't the state of California do that?
Good. But I mean, most veteran benefits are federal.
No, I mean in our situation.
Oh.
Executive order guaranteeing unemployment insurance for workers who refuse work due to COVID-19. This is a huge one right here.
Right.
Because a lot of people are losing their jobs and losing out on money because they go into an office that is not safe and not COVID safe and get COVID and then decide, oh, well, you still have to come in, but you're being punished.
Not only that, if you find out someone tested positive at your work and you don't want to go in because, you're going to get it.
Right.
And you're afraid you're going to get it. If you quit or abandon your job, generally you do not qualify for unemployment benefit.
Right. Yeah.
So in this particular case, if you cite COVID as the reason you're not going into work and your work is trying to make you come in, you can still get your unemployment benefit. I know you're looking at me like that because that's my situation.
He got somebody at his office, which is a very small firm, has COVID. So
they won't tell us who.
They won't tell him who, and he had to go into work today. So it's not a fun situation. Executive order establishing benefit delivery teams. Oh, this is the one where he called on FEMA to be like, hey, y'all gonna have to start doing something because this is your area.
Right.
Executive order facilitating delivery of stimulus payments. A lot of people have not received their stimulus payments. We're actually a couple that hasn't received ours. We didn't receive the first one, and we haven't received the second one because something is going wrong with the Department of Treasury. So he's trying to figure, basically this executive order is to get their butts in gear to give people their money.
Right, and create an online tool for you to track everything.
Yeah. Executive order to address COVID economic relief. I mean, to be quite honest, basic economics is if you put money in people's hands, they're going to spend it. But if you don't help, I don't know. It may,
if you put money into the working class, the lower class, the middle class, they spend it.
Right.
If you put money into the hands of the very wealthy, they hoard it.
Right. So that's why, the economy, any economy works based off of the people who are actually going to spend the money. So if you don't give them the money to spend, your economy is not going to do well. It's a very simple concept, but the rich don't understand that they'll stay rich and possibly be even richer if they give people money. Money
trickles up. It doesn't trickle down.
Yeah, trickle down economics does not work, Reagan. Executive order empowering federal workers and contractors. So he undid a Trump-era regulation that rolled back protections for federal employees. Why would you remove protections for federal employees to begin with? Biden revoked a variety of measures, including a rule that made it easier to hire and fire civil servants. Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
So that Trump could hire and fire people. The order also requested the Department of Labor to develop recommendations that all federal government employees receive a minimum wage of $15 an hour. This is what's laying the groundwork for the minimum wage to be increased in America.
Right, because if your federal government jobs are $15 an hour, no one's going to want to work for a private company at $7.25.
Exactly. All right, so day 6. Guys, we are getting close to the end. Executive order reversing transgender military ban. This is a big one because I believe it was an executive order that created the ban as well.
It was.
So Biden repealed the ban that transgender people cannot serve openly in the military. This is, for the LGBT community, this is amazing. And I personally am very happy that this decision was made. But I want this to be more than just an executive order. I want this to be the rule. I want this to be, you cannot take somebody, you can't go back and forth like that. So, this is...
For those that were discharged under the previous ban, they cannot be barred from re-enlisting if they so.
See, that's awesome.
Now, the problem being, in 4 years, if there's a different president, this policy could go out the window.
That's why we've got to push for these policies to become more than just policies. Proclamation reinstating COVID-19 travel restrictions, which is a good thing because we don't need to be traveling when we have 500,000 people that are dead.
Well, soon to be 500,000. It's in the 400,000.
Executive order promoting Buy American agenda. You were doing some research on this one.
Yes. In order for a federal agency now to contract for services or products, there has to be it has to be from an American manufacturer, American workers, that kind of thing. You can't contract with the federal government, buy everything from, for example, China, and then dump it on the U.S. government. Now, there are certain exceptions to that, since we don't seem to make any electronic circuit boards.
Right.
But there is a revision on how much a product has to be, quote, American made in order to qualify.
Hold up. Isn't that concept a Republican concept? The whole it's America, her?
It's a protectionist concept, yes.
Okay, so, but a Democratic president put that into place.
Right. Trying to protect American jobs.
But I thought that's what the Republicans wanted. I hope you guys are hearing the sarcasm in my voice.
No, the Republicans and their unbridled capitalism god would rather have everything made in China and brought over because that's how you maximize your profits.
Right. I find that interesting. I appreciate that because that will then actually end up creating more jobs in America because...
Now, someone's going to say, oh, he's anti-capitalist. No, I am not. I am against unregulated capitalism. Capitalism needs to be regulated.
Okay, Bernie.
Nothing wrong with Bernie.
I love Bernie.
I need mittens.
I want my Bernie mittens.
Tell me who that teacher was in Vermont.
I still want a Funko Pop. I still want Bernie Sanders Funko Pop mittens, okay? Funko Pop, you need to get on that. Bernie Sanders needs to be a Funko Pop. I mean it. And I want the first one. Okay, all right. And day seven, executive order calling for evaluation of Trump's housing policies. Biden directed the Department of Housing and Urban Development to examine the effects of the previous administration's regulatory actions that undermine fair housing policies and laws and use its findings to implement the Fair Housing Act standards needed.
As someone who used to work in Orange County Fair Housing, a lot of landlords out there discriminate.
Yes.
One of the jobs I had when I was working at Fair Housing was I was the white guy who would go in 30 minutes after the minority was denied the apartment and get the apartment with the same qualifications. The only difference, and we had, documentation, the only difference was our race.
Wait, your job was to essentially undercover find racists?
That was one of them, yeah. That was the funnest thing, too.
Wait, I didn't... That's... Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I did not know you did that.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I found a story that I didn't know about my husband. This is what happens when you've been together for a long time. You tend to run out of stories.
Yeah.
Hold up.
That was a good time.
So you used to basically be an
It's not like
undercover racist
I
finder.
Didn't do it every day, but like every month or so, they would send me out to get the apartment.
That's actually kind of cool.
Cliff would go.
That's actually cool.
And he'd be denied. They'd tell him that the apartment was already rented, generally.
Yeah.
And then, 30, 35 minutes later, I'd go into the management leasing office and they would basically show me the apartment, tell me how much it was, and try and get me to do the $35 application fee.
That's kind of bad. So wow.
And then Fair Housing would go after that management company.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that Fair Housing does. That's actually really cool. I did not know that was part of the stuff that they do.
We provided law to not just tenants, but also to landlords. Although the landlords usually did not call us because we were always seen as a tenant-friendly agency.
Well,
but yeah, we would also provide legal advice to landlords if they wanted to call us and ask us questions.
Executive order to end reliance on private prisons. That was so these are what was signed today. This is amazing. And the reason why I think this is awesome is even in 4 years, if a new president comes in and reverses this, we've still dismantled the private prisons. So they're going to have to build all that.
Here's the problem with private prisons. A lot of these contracts that the states have with private prisons say that there has to be an 85-90% occupancy rate. If there isn't that occupancy rate, they still have to be paid as if there were.
Wait, hold up. What? Say that again?
So, private prison has 1,000 beds. They have a contract that says the occupancy rate you're paying me is for 850 of those beds being filled.
Okay.
So, say there is a massive lull in crime and you could only fill 500 of those beds.
Why would I pay you for?
Because that's what the contract states.
Then
Georgia's one of them.
You should be able to renegotiate and be like, y'all got 500 prisoners. We ain't paying you for more.
The other thing is, if someone is in custody because of the law, government should be the one supervising that custody.
I agree.
If we go to war, we shouldn't be paying mercenaries.
I agree.
We should have our own soldiers. Same thing when it comes to private prisons.
Yeah.
Because what happens, and I will use Georgia as an example, not only is the prisons private, the probation department is a private company. Yeah.
So you mean to tell me if I'm arrested and I go to jail that I'm dealing with private citizens, not the people who did the laws and deal with the laws?
Right.
Why would I want to deal with Joe Schmo?
So here you go. Say you are too poor to pay your traffic ticket. In Georgia, you are now on probation.
Yeah, that totally happened to me.
You have to pay monthly. The private company gets to determine their monthly fee. And it's usually set at enough to where you're never paying that off, like a credit card.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is that what happened to me at the age of 16?
And then what happens, if you get another ticket and can't pay that, that's a probation violation. Guess who's now at risk of going to a private prison? Yeah. And that is the equivalent of being thrown in jail for being poor. It is the most effed up.
I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah. Now, not every state is like that. Specifically, Georgia is like that. California is not. California, you can't pay your ticket. They will take monthly. They're not going to put you on probation or throw you in jail.
Yeah, when I was 16, I got a speeding ticket for going too fast, obviously, because I'm 16 and got my first car, right? And I was put on probation until I could pay my ticket off.
Yeah.
For a freaking speeding ticket.
I think you didn't get another
and that's
ticket, you felon.
Here's the thing. What I didn't understand, the wrestler who also had a speeding ticket pled not guilty and got a lesser charge and a lesser fine, whereas I pled guilty and admitted to my wrongdoings because I grew up being told that if you be honest, it's a lesser thing. No, screw that.
Were you talking wrestler, professional wrestler or high school wrestler?
No, high school wrestler.
Oh,
sports.
Yeah.
Because you're in the South. Yeah.
They probably would have just released him if he was a football player.
Anyway. Executive order. So anyway, that executive order is, I know that this is kind of trying to predict the future, but that would be one that would be kind of difficult you could overturn it, but getting that system going again would be difficult.
Not really.
You don't think so?
It popped up very quickly.
I wonder how long it's going to take to dismantle then.
Because a lot of these companies took abandoned hotels and motels, bought that property, converted those rooms into cells, and they're putting 4-6 people in one of those a night. Oh, yeah. Anyhow.
Okay, we've got 2 more executive orders. Executive order reaffirming commitment to tribal sovereignty. So I'm going to read what NBC News says here. Emphasizing these are the ones that I actually don't know a lot about because they were literally signed right before the podcast and I didn't have a lot of time to really research them. Emphasizing the administration's commitment to respecting the sovereignty of American Indian and Alaskan Native tribes, Biden's order reaffirmed a Clinton-era policy mandating all department and agency heads regularly consult with tribal officials on policy matters that may affect them. Wow, that's huge.
Right.
He also actually has a Native American. He's appointed a Native American over Native American.
Oh, to be Secretary of the Interior.
Yeah, which is over the Native. That's the first. That's the first ever that's ever happened. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct.
Having an actual Native American person in charge of Native American things. Who would have thought?
In addition to the whole environment of the U.S.
I don't know, but I think that having a Native American in charge of environmental stuff is probably the best thing. I don't know. I'm just saying, that's their whole thing.
And I'm sure they're thinking, well,
they know this land way better than we'll ever know it.
Let's see what the commitment actually is.
Yeah.
Because they've been burned way too many times in the past.
Yeah, you get jaded. Yes, of course.
Each reservation is supposed to be a semi-autonomous nation that they are in control of. But that's not really true.
No, because they're not given access to any kind of resources to help benefit them.
Right. The poorest counties in the U.S. are on reservations.
Yeah.
A number of people living on reservations don't even have.
Yeah. Because they don't have the funding. They don't have the resources. They don't have any of that stuff. Like, they are treated like crap.
Right. And so they resort to casinos, basically, as a way of getting some revenue in.
I think natives have the highest suicide rate.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I do know that there is, I don't know about it a whole lot, but there's a big issue with Native American girls being abducted.
I haven't heard that, but
yeah.
Also would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's Native TikTok. It's a historic, like, it's historical. Like, it's a major issue. It's messed up, man. All right, and our final executive order is denouncing anti-Asian discrimination and xenophobia, which honestly, it's one of those executive orders that's fluff. Basically, it's basically him saying that we're not going to be racist like the previous administration.
We're not going to call it the China virus.
Oh my God. I mean, it's good. It's essentially, it's just a statement is more than anything, which is a good statement that needs to be made because there's been a lot of really anti-Asian sentiment since Trump started calling the coronavirus the China virus. Those are all of that's the first week full of executive orders. And while a lot of these policies are really good policies, they're not law. They're not permanent, which is the unfortunate thing. So stay grounded in reality and listening to this stuff. And we have to continue that work because as far as the law goes, legally, they mean nothing.
Right. They're just policy changes.
Yeah. Legally, they mean nothing. So that's really important to keep in mind when it comes to that kind of thing, when it comes to the executive order. I know it's a downer and I sound like a Debbie Downer, but I want people to look at this stuff realistically and to understand it thoroughly.
Temper your expectations.
Yes.
And with that, next week, I want to go into the filibuster.
Oh, yes. We'll talk about the filibuster and Mitch McConnell.
And I want to go into the history of it.
Okay.
And everything.
I'd like to learn more about the filibuster as well and what it actually is. I do know one of my favorite stories is there was a senator who got up and read the entire Bible for his filibuster because back in the day, in order to do a filibuster, you had to speak the entire time.
And couldn't leave to go to the bathroom.
And could not leave. Now it's easy to filibuster anything.
Right. And a little tidbit for next week, the filibuster is not in the Constitution.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm excited about next week's podcast. Okay, well, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you to our live audience for being here. We see you. We thank you. I know there was a lot of chatter. I don't address quite everything just because we are available on Spotify and iTunes. We really appreciate you guys. We appreciate y'all listening. Thank you so much for being here. If you liked this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. You can find it hosted on Twitch at twitch.tv/PhoenixNymphy. Use the hashtag Learning the Law on TikTok and all other social media platforms to follow. You can find Ron on Twitter at NecroKijo and Ashley, myself, on most social media platforms at Phoenix Nymphy. If you have any questions, please tweet us, comment, email at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. And this has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Bye, everyone.